Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, we have an incredible guest on. We have Victoria. Oh my gosh, I should have asked you how you pronounce your last name before I press go live. Okay, hold on. Let me. Nope. I'm gonna need you.
I'm gonna help you out. Lioznyansky.
Yep. Okay. I have a hard last name too, so it's...
You do.
Yes.
And it's only 4 letters and it's hard, and mine is like 35 letters and it's equally hard.
I looked at it and I'm like, nope, can't do it. Well, Victoria, I'm so happy you're here. So Victoria teaches introverted entrepreneurs and business professionals how to overcome their fear of public speaking and become confident, compelling, and captivating speakers. Taking her own experiences going from scared to sought after speaker, Victoria found a brilliant Speakers Academy, an online public speaking coaching program. She also owns Nutty Scientists of Houston, a passion project about inspiring kids to fall in love with science. I love it, Victoria. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. So let's start off. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got started doing what you're doing.
Well, I never imagined I would be doing what I'm doing, honestly. I know some people are growing up wanting to be someone. Being a public speaking coach was never my childhood dream. In fact, that was my nightmare.
Yeah.
This was my absolute nightmare, to be in front of people, speak in front of people, speak in front of large audiences. Hey, speak in front of one person was also a nightmare because I was, and I still am, very introverted. And I was terrified of public speaking. And then when I was 10 years old, I had a really nightmarish experience where I was, and by the way, I was growing up in the former Soviet Union, so it's a little different environment, but somebody just approached me and said, hey, we have a concert today and you're going to be reciting a poem from memory. It starts in 4 hours. Here is a poem. Go for it. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I tried to memorize it, and then I went on stage, and I obviously, as you can imagine, forgot everything. And I was so scared, and I was trembling, and I already was scared in general. And to add to this, that it's dark and I'm the only one on stage. There's a microphone. There are people looking at me. It was terrifying. I ran off stage in tears to the giggles from the audience. And since then, I was like, you know what? Not my thing. Not my thing. I'm not going to do it. But then when I was in my early 20s, I moved to the United States. And back then, I'm just going to totally date myself, it was before YouTube and Facebook. I started my first business, a web development company, and you had to go out there and speak. You couldn't hide behind anything at that point. And I was pushing through the fear, and no, I didn't overcome my fear at all. I was still scared. I felt like I think a lot of people in your audience feel, where you hate every moment of it and you just wish you never stood in front of those people speaking. And it literally took me years to realize that everything I was doing was wrong, that I was following the wrong advice that was so common back then and still is, do it scared and fake it till you make it, and practice makes perfect, right? All of those things. And I had to truly discard all of that and really change my mindset about who my audience is, who they are, what am I speaking about, who am I? I had to really learn to build this unshakable confidence about me so that I could step up and actually speak without fear. It took me a long time, and I still wasn't planning to teach anybody. I just thought it was me, and hey, yay, I'm so happy I can do it now. So I was building corporate career, I was building businesses, and people started coming up to me after my presentations, after my trainings on different topics. They would come up to me and say, hey, you are so good at this. You're such a natural. How are you doing it? And I'm like, I'm not a natural. I used to be terrified. And that's when I started realizing that's what I did, that system that I developed for myself, all the changes I had to go through, other people can repeat as well. And so that became the foundation of all of the frameworks and systems inside of my Brilliant Speakers Academy and Brilliant Speakers Accelerator programs. So, and that's how I am where I am right now, not a childhood dream.
Okay, so can you break down some of the systems, the frameworks of, like, we want to know the steps, like what'd you do?
Right, absolutely. And you know what, the first thing that you have to realize, and I think a lot of people are confused on this, and they think, oh, well, but I just don't have a talent for this. It's going to be hard for me. I think there are very few people in the world who have talent, public speaking talent. Everybody else learns it. It's a skill. It's not something that you're born with. It's a skill. Anybody can learn it. And so the main thing that I want you to truly understand is that if you try all of those band-aid solutions that teach you how to fake it, that teach you how to appear confident, then you're going to be stuck in that vicious circle of always feeling inadequate, always feeling like a fraud, always feeling like your audience is judging you. And all of my students are going through this because this is so natural for us. When we're looking at this camera, when we're looking at the audience, we feel small, we feel judged, we feel like we don't know anything. And that happens to people who are experts in their fields. You guys who are watching this right now, you're probably nodding because you know what you do. You're good at what you do. But why? As soon as you step in front of a camera, all of that disappears and you feel scared. And that's, obviously I can talk a million years about it, all the scientific processes that are happening. But the first thing that I want you to understand is if you focus on pretending, if you focus on faking it, if you focus on trying to appear confident, it's not going to work. What you want to focus on is learning how to truly become confident in front of a camera, in front of your audience. There's a massive difference there. And I don't want you to fall prey to those solutions that say, oh, well, yeah, let's just fake it till we make it. Because you are already enough. You don't need to fake it. All you need to do is to build who you truly are. Not go and pretend to be someone you're not, but to build that unshakable confidence inside of you in who you truly are, because you are already enough. You're already there. You just need to believe in it yourself. But the biggest gift you can give yourself is when you go in front of an audience, you need to learn how to shift the focus away from you and put it on your audience. And a lot of people talk about it. It's not news. Sorry, throat. It's not like big breaking news, like, oh, I need to think about my audience. A lot of people don't do it right. So let me break it down for you. If you have ever heard this advice, oh, you need to shift the focus to your audience, what you may be doing wrong is you are going in front of a camera or in front of people. You're looking at that camera and you're like, I'm going to think about my audience. Ooh, I wonder what they're thinking of me. That is not thinking about your audience. When you're standing there trying to figure out how your audience feels about you, you are going right back into that mindset of, who am I? I'm not good enough. And as soon as you go back into that mindset, as you already know, it's very hard to jump out of it, because then your brain starts sending those fear signals to your body, the physical fear signals to your body. And that's when you feel sweaty, you're red, your mind becomes foggy, you're gone. So you can't go into that mindset of, who am I? And so when I'm talking about shifting your focus to your audience, I literally want you to only think about how you want to make your audience feel. Not feel about you. You are not a part of that equation. You don't exist. You're just a messenger who is bringing whatever you need to talk about to that audience. How do you want to make them feel? And when you stay focused on that, things begin to shift. And the way you stay focused on that is you don't allow your brain, even for a split second, to assess how you feel, to assess what they think about you, to assess how do I look? Or let me go check my camera. Oh, okay, no, I don't like how I look. You can't go into that. You stay focused on every sentence out of your mouth that it's structured in a way that benefits your audience the most. What can I say to benefit my audience the most? What can I say to make them feel a certain way? Whatever you're trying to make them feel, how do you want to make them feel? Do you want to make them feel inspired? Do you want to make them feel motivated? Do you want to make them feel frustrated about how they live right now? Whatever you're trying to do, it's not about you, it's about them. You are a giver, not a receiver. And so every single sentence out of your mouth becomes something that benefits your audience. And when your brain stays focused on that, it doesn't have the opportunity to go back into, oh, how do I look right now? Right? Your brain cannot really think about two big things at a time. It either focuses on what you're saying and on your audience, truly focuses on your audience, or it goes back into assessing you. And when your brain stays focused on what you're saying and on benefiting your audience, it stops sending those fear signals into your body. It stops sending those physical manifestations of fear. All of a sudden, you're done with your live stream 10 minutes late, and you're like, oh, wait, I'm no longer sweaty. I was okay. I wasn't as scared. You can't think that while you're talking, because then again, you go out of that being in the flow. But after that, you're going to realize, as long as I'm staying fully focused on my audience, things become easier.
I love that. And just boom, focus on them, not on me. What are some other mistakes that you see public speakers, or just let's not even call ourselves public speakers.
No.
Let's say we're entrepreneurs that have a message. We're entrepreneurs that have a message that want to make a greater impact in the world. And we do public speaking and we do lives, and that's how we get our message out to reach more people. What are some mistakes that you see we might be making?
We do tend to self-sabotage ourselves quite a lot. And some of the biggest mistakes actually come from some of the biggest advice, obviously, because that advice that has been going on for years, just, fake it till you make it, right? The way most people interpret that advice is that, well, I'm not enough as is. Let me pretend to be somebody you're not. The thing is, if you are an entrepreneur, let's say you are a coach, and let's say you are a beginning coach. You just started your business. You don't have a lot of clients. You feel inadequate because you're not as far along as some of the other coaches in the industry who have millions of people in their audience. You feel inadequate. You feel like a fraud in a way when you're doing your live streams. And that's where that fear comes from. And so what I want to remind you, there is an audience for every single person. There is an audience for every coach. There is an audience for every entrepreneur. Your audience, the one that's going to be attracted to you, will be attracted to you because you are a newer coach, because you are only 10 steps ahead of where they are. You didn't, let's say you're coaching how to build a business. You built a small business. You didn't build a eight-figure business in 20 years. You are not that kind of a coach. You're a coach who just built a small but solid business. You're teaching others. They may want to be where you are. They connect to where you are. They may not even connect to that coach who is so far removed that they don't even remember the first steps. But your audience may be attracted to you because of that very reason. So you have to trust that where you are is enough. You cannot fake it to try and appear someone you're not, to try and appear a bigger business just for the sake of people liking you more. Because what's going to happen is you're going to lose people who would be your ideal clients.
Yep.
And you're going to attract someone who is a mess, who is not your client at all. And then you're going to regret. Even if you booked them, you're going to regret working with them.
Totally.
So it's right. I mean, we can all relate to that. So I hear it like, but I don't know enough. Or another thing I hear all the time, and that's a really big self-sabotaging mistake, is, but everything has been said.
There's nothing new under the sun.
There is not. What can I add to the conversation? What am I going to be doing live streams about? So let's say you're a health coach, right? That because we can all relate to that industry easily. I'm a health coach. I'm teaching people how to lose 20 pounds and how to live a healthy lifestyle. What can I say? I mean, everybody knows already because other coaches already said it a million times. Well, Okay, so you will say the same things. But here is the deal, and this is why it is a self-sabotaging mistake when you tell yourself, I cannot add anything new. Yes, you can. Here is how. You are completely unique. You have your own experiences, your own education, your own examples, your own clients that you worked with, or even if you are brand new, you don't have clients, you have yourself. You have your own experiences, you have your own stories, you have your own anecdotes. So you may be saying a similar thing to other coaches. Maybe you are saying, well, don't eat after 7 p.m., which maybe everybody says that. I'm not in the health industry, as you can tell, but maybe everybody says that. But you're going to say it differently. You don't eat after 7 p.m. is going to be said from your point of view. You're going to add your own anecdotes to it. You're going to add your own fun stories. You're going to make it your own. Even though the message is the same, it's going to sound different. And what's more important, it's going to resonate differently with your audience. Because the way you say it may resonate with these people. And the way I say exactly the same thing is going to resonate with those people. And if you have abundance mindset, which you should, there are enough people for all of us. But you are going to be attracting the people who are actually perfect for you. So you don't need to think, I don't know enough because I'm new, or everything has been said, what can I add? You are enough with your level of expertise, your level of experience, and that is plenty. So that's one of the biggest self-sabotaging mistakes I see specifically coaches make. But then another one, which I think a lot of us make, I've definitely made that one many, many times, is the famous practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Here's a problem with it. Not that I don't believe in practice. I mean, I'm a big believer in practice, but I'm a big believer in practicing the right things. Here is what's going to happen. Again, you probably can relate to that if you've ever seen piano. You know how when people play piano well, their fingers around it, they're doing it right. Well, what if nobody ever taught you piano and you just decided to learn it yourself and you really didn't know how to play it well and you were playing with, straight fingers? You will learn to play somehow. It will never be good. But because you practice and practice and practice, now your straight, non-flexible fingers became a habit. That's going to be a lot harder to break versus if you did it right to begin with. Here is how it applies. When you feel scared and people tell you, oh, it doesn't matter that you feel scared, push through fear, just do it scared, just go and practice and practice and practice makes perfect. And you go and do your live streams and you're terrified the whole time. And you do the next live stream, you're terrified again. All you're thinking about is, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Oh my gosh, they're judging me. Oh, somebody's about to put something in the comment that's going to be like, you suck, and they'll leave. And it's like, and you're like sitting there thinking that, and you continue, but people say practice. So you continue doing it. You continue pushing through fear. So what happens is you may get marginally better, but what's going to happen is you're going to build a habit of speaking scared, of speaking while feeling inadequate. It becomes a habit. I met people who do presentations at work, and they do presentations once a month, and they've been doing them for years, and they're still uncomfortable, they're still anxious, they still don't feel like they're connecting. Because if you're doing something wrong, all you're creating is a habit of doing it wrong. Does that make sense? So until you know how to practice it right, which is obviously what I teach, all you're doing is you're developing that habit. And that's why it was so hard for me as well when I was in my 20s to feel confident, because I also, just like many of you, I got into that habit of speaking scared, and I kind of felt that that's how you're supposed to feel, terrified the whole time. And those of you who are anxious about speaking, you understand how it feels, you know what it means. So be very careful with practice makes perfect. Make sure that you're not developing a habit of being scared.
Got it. How do you get started? So you're like, all right, I want to do this, but how do you do it? How do you engage people and make it feel natural?
Right. So let's say again, let's say you've never done live streams, so you've done live streams and you just want to continue doing them, because live streams is the easiest example, right, Rachel? Because it's like one of those things that everybody can easily do. So here is what you do. Number one, you decide who your audience is. Who am I speaking to? And you may have a pretty good idea, because everybody knows about ICA and all of that stuff, right? You may have a pretty good idea, but just spend a minute thinking, who will be on that other side of the camera? Who am I speaking to? And then, how do I want to make them feel? Because that's very important. If you don't know what if you know what you're trying to present on, it's just education. But when you know how you're trying to make your audience feel, then you're really, really making a difference. They remember you. They remember your presentation. So until you know how you're trying to make them feel, do not turn on that camera. Okay, you figured it out. I know how I want to make them feel. I want them to feel this and this and this about themselves. Okay, good. Now, take a piece of paper, or you're doing it on your computer, and think about what you're going to say. Do not write the whole thing out. Because if you write the whole thing out, you'll have a tendency to memorize the whole thing.
Yep.
And don't do it to yourself, because you're going to forget somewhere after the first 3 sentences, and then you're going to be like a deer in a headlight looking for the paper, because you're like, I forgot the flow, I forgot the whole thing. Oh my god! Right? So you don't do this to yourself. You just this is just, you'll scare yourself more. So what you're going to do is you're going to write it as bullet points. What are my main ideas? Because then all you have to, even if you didn't have that paper in front of you, all you have to memorize are your bullet points, which would be like maybe 4 or 5. How long is going to be your live stream, right? And for each bullet points, try to add a story. It could be your own story. It could be an anecdote from somewhere else. It could be maybe a story of your client. Here is why. When you are scared of being in front of an audience or in front of a camera, you tend to forget what you want to say. And that's what's really terrifying, right? But if you have your bullet points, and each bullet point has a story, you will be able to tell that story, because it's very easy for us to remember a story. Like if I had to tell a story of me when I was 10 years old, I was on stage and I was scared. I'm not afraid I'll forget it. How can I forget that? It's in my head. It's like, it's impossible for us to forget stories. What we forget is if we try to memorize the whole thing, or if we may forget the flow. But in order not to forget the flow, that's why you have your little bullet points there, and you may even have it like next to the computer, so you can glance sideways and see what the next bullet point is. But try to add stories, because that's going to make you feel so at ease as you're telling a story, because you kind of feel you're in the flow. You know you're not going to forget it. You know what you're saying. And then as you get to the end of the story, you're like, what's the next thing? And then you're like, you glance, oh, next bullet point. Okay, I got it. And then you continue going, right?
Yep.
That is going to help you so much. So try to focus on stories, especially when you're just beginning, because it's going to put you at ease. And try to keep your live streams short, so that, again, you don't put too much pressure on you. Do not look at the comments until you take a little break. So don't try to speak and look at the comments at the same time, because number one, it's going to be super distracting, and you will lose a train of thought. Like we've all done, I've done it many times. But second, you're going to try to answer that question right away. And again, that's going to completely take you out of what you were saying, and that will become scattered. Your whole presentation, your whole live stream will be scattered. So if you decide that, what I would recommend is that you go through all of your bullet points. You go through your whole little mini presentation that you mapped out in your head, and you keep on thinking the whole time, right? How am I making them feel? You're focused on your audience, what we've talked about before. And then when you get to the end, then you go like, okay, guys, I'm going to look at the comments. Let's see what questions you have. Then now you're looking at your comments. You're done with your thing. You're not scared that you're going to forget something. You're not scared in general at this point, because you're deep breath, you're done. And now you're looking at the questions. So don't make your life harder. Don't try to multitask and look at the questions at the same time. Just stay focused on your audience. Stay focused, making eye contact with your camera, and be in the zone of a giver. I am a giver. I am giving all of myself right now to my audience, and nothing else matters.
I love that. How can you really start that live stream and grab people's attention right away? So they're like, I need to be here.
I see a lot of people, and even I do sometimes too, because I'm like, I need to introduce myself. A lot of people go into the introduction first. Hi, I'm this and this, and I help this and this, which works sometimes, but more often than not, it doesn't grab people's attention, because if they don't really know you quite as well, they're like, okay, so what's in it? What's in it for me, right? Everybody wants to know what's in it for me. So if let's say you are promoting the live stream and people know to join at 11, and it's going to be, I'm going to talk about healthy eating. Okay, I'm interested in healthy eating. I'm going to decide in the first 2 minutes if I'm going to continue watching, because we're all busy, right? So what you want to start is with either a question. How many of you have eaten this type of food? Well, let me tell you, that's why you're gaining weight. I'm making it up, but you make something like, you make it like a little hook, or you start, so that would be a question, or you start with a statistic. People who eat after, did you guys know that in the time it took me to turn on my camera and start this live stream, I don't know, X number of people experienced whatever. You can start with a story, which is the most powerful thing, because you're going to grab people right away, especially if that story, it has to be relatable to what people are here for. So you may start with a story, and that could be your story. It could be a client story, maybe it's your story, and you just start by saying, by literally taking them into the story right away in present tense. I'm standing on stage. I'm looking in the microphone. All I can focus on is that big microphone right in front of my face, which is almost bigger than my head. And there are people there, and it's dark, and I'm shaking and sweaty, and my knees are buckling. And I don't have a single thought in my head. I'm frozen in space. I am supposed to deliver a poem. I don't remember a word. And I'm 10. If I started it like this, knowing that my audience would relate to this, they would be watching.
I leaned in a little bit. I was like,
you're like, oh, and then you leave them on a cliffhanger. And then you go, well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Victoria Lioznyansky, and blah, 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 blah. I know you're curious to know what happened. I'm going to tell you what happened in just a second. But first of all, let me ask you guys, and you can tell me in the comments. Now, I'm not going to look in the comments right away, but tell me in the comments, how many of you are afraid of public speaking, right? Then you begin that conversation. And probably one of the most things that I forgot to say, which is very important for me to say, is that don't treat your live streams or any other presentations as a lecture. This is not, or don't even treat them as presentations. It's just the word we use, presentations. You're not presenting. What you're doing is you're having a conversation with your audience. You are having a conversation. You cannot hear them because they are on the other side of that camera, but they can use comments to converse with you, or you imagine them nodding their head, leaning in closer, smiling, laughing. You imagine that you are actually having a conversation. And when you are in this mindset of, we're just chatting, I'm having a conversation, and all my focus is on how you feel as a result of this conversation, that's when the magic happens.
Oh, that's good. I love it. Any routines or rituals that you have before you jump on stage?
Not anymore. And I'll tell you why. Because the way I teach and the way I lived through this and the way I experienced it, my goal was always not to appear confident. My goal was always to feel confident. And so now it became a habit. And that's another thing that I teach, and we just don't have time to go into this, but I teach how to turn on that confidence switch, how to turn it on when needed, so that you don't need to be confident 24/7. You don't need to be this, super confident person, which none of us are. But when it matters, when you are walking into that meeting, when you're turning on that camera, when you're stepping on that stage, you know how to turn on that confidence switch. And so I don't have a routine anymore because I made it a habit. And that's what I teach, how you make it a habit, that anytime the camera turns on, I am in that mindset of a confident, passionate, giving person who is speaking to my audience. I don't need, I don't need to go through a special routine just because I know how to do it instantaneously and I'm there. Doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's something very simple and very quick that you can do right away, okay? And that is take a few deep breaths, which is you're probably already doing it because you're scared and you're like hyperventilating, but try to just take a couple of really slow, deep breath. Now, it's not magical in any way, but what it does, it really helps your heart to slow down just tiny bit. Just give you just that sense of calm. And the next thing you're going to do after you take this 3 breath, you're going to smile. You're going to smile, even though you may not feel like smiling at all. You feel like crying. Yeah. You're going to smile and you're going to try to appear as truly smiling as possible, because what happens is our muscles, we have a muscle memory. Our muscles remember that when we smile, that makes us feel a certain way. And it's not going to magically make you feel happy, but it's going to give you just tiny bit of a nudge towards happiness.
Yeah.
And for now, if you were doing a live stream today, if you apply everything that I already talked about and add those couple of things, you're going to feel calmer. You will.
Yeah. Awesome. What's one of the best books you've read?
One of my favorite books, which I read 20 years ago, is E-Myth Revisited. And I would highly recommend it to all entrepreneurs. And it hasn't, the advice that Michael Gerber gives on it, I don't think it's dated in any way or form still. You still can apply it to any business. And I've built businesses. I read it when I was building my first business. I'm on my business number 4. And ever since I made my mistakes in the first business and read the book, and I'm like, oh, I understand now. Ever since then, I was building businesses just like E-Myth Revisited explains. And it doesn't matter if I'm building an online business or brick and mortar business. The principles are the same. So that book, you read it really quickly. It's like really easy to read book. If you haven't, go through it very quick. It's going to give you an idea of how to run your business as a system, how to create processes around everything. And it's fun. And it feels like you read a fiction book versus a business book. So I would highly recommend it.
Cool. I will add it to my list. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
It's very easy. For me to make an impact is that if I'm speaking, let's say today, my goal was to make an impact. Anytime I'm coming in, I do exactly what I just told you. I'm thinking how I want to make my audience feel. And I want to feel my audience to feel inspired. I want them to feel like, I got it. I can do it. So for me to make an impact is to change people's mind about who they are and what they can do. Because public speaking, I don't even think about it as public speaking, because truly it's not what we call, formal public speaking. It's just us speaking in groups or speaking in front of camera, or speaking, on Zoom, or speaking on live streams. For me, it's just the first step of I am teaching you how to do it so that you can be better at it, so that you can go and continue making impact in the world. And so for me, impact is that I am making you believe in yourself. I'm making you more confident so that you can go out there and change the world. So for me, that's really, really important.
I love that. Victoria, where can we connect with you?
The best place to find me is my website, www.byvictorial, for Lioznyansky. You don't have to spell my last name.
Amazing.
All right. byvictorial.com. I have some free training there. I have lots of videos that you guys can watch. And of course, I would love to invite you to apply for my Brilliant Speakers Accelerator program.
Amazing. Victoria, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you, and can't wait for our audience to apply your tips and strategies so they can be more confident speakers. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, and good luck to you guys.